Hi guys, it's Amy from thecrazycraftlady.com. I'm here in my kitchen today sharing with you my latest budget-friendly DIY project. A lot of labor and love went into this kitchen over the winter. These were originally golden oak cabinets, so we raised them, actually removed them completely off the wall, raised them up to the ceiling, which gave us this extra height here where we were able to install a floating shelf. Painted the cabinets, painted the shelf to match, painted the kitchen countertops, as well as added this little shiplap backsplash. So that's where we're at now. And then we finally got around to changing out our kitchen flooring, which was just kind of yucky beige, linoleum kind of vinyl flooring. It was in really good shape. It was really smooth. It just was boring beige, and I wanted something different, but I wasn't up to the task of completely retiling our kitchen floor. I wasn't about to hire a contractor to do it, and I wasn't about to learn how to cut tile and grout and everything. It just seemed like too much for me to take on right now. So we did the next best thing, and that is peel and stick vinyl floor tiles. They come in packs of 10. I will link below to where I got ours from. This particular brand is Floor Pops, but there's lots of brands. I have a blog post with some of my favorite sources for peel and stick vinyl tile. So today I'm going to walk you through kind of what this looks like. So inside this packet, like I said, are 10 individual floor tiles. This is the pattern that we chose for our kitchen floor. They come in a variety of patterns, but as you can see, it's extremely thin, kind of flexible, and then it is pre-pasted on the back. So you just peel this back and there's adhesive already to go on the back of it. The nice thing about this is because it's so thin, you don't need any special tools to cut it. I was able to cut it with just like a straight edge and a razor blade, and then I used a cutting mat underneath. There were some spots where I got really into like the corners with detailed cutting, and I actually was able to just use a pair of scissors to cut like corners out. It was easier that way. Just be careful, you will get like gooey adhesive residue on your scissors, so don't use your favorite pair, and you may have to bust out the glue gun when you're done, but it worked out really, really well. So this is the product that I'm going to use. I filmed a complete time-lapse video of the whole process from start to finish. We covered our kitchen floor. Granted, our kitchen is not that big. I ended up using, I believe, 10 boxes of 10 tiles each. There was a fair amount of waste, which I'll talk about in my tutorial. Waste getting the pattern to line up along the edge, because as you can see, this tile that I chose has this pattern that needs to line up perfectly between each tile, otherwise it looks a little funny, and that's a bit of a learning curve, I should say, but we'll walk through that. So with that, I think we're going to get going, and I'm going to show you the process start to finish. It took a day. Less than a day, and my kids were in and out and the dog was in and out with lots of distractions. So this is a completely doable weekend warrior project, no power tools, my entire new kitchen floor under $150. Totally worth it. Let's get going. The first thing you want to do before you even prep your floor is to start to plan out where you want to place your tiles. Identify the center of your room and then kind of work your way out and measure. And the reason why you're doing this is to make sure that if you start tiling and you end up getting towards the edge, you don't want to end up with like a 1/4 of an inch on the edge where you need to cut like a 1/4 of an inch or just an inch of tile. You want to make sure that along your edges, you have about between at least 1/4 and 1/2 of a tile on the edge, just to make sure that it looks right, and just kind of plan out your space and make sure you like where your center tile is located and how your edges are going to end up working out. Then identify, measure out the center line of your room and just mark it off with a Sharpie. I just used like a long straight edge level. Then it's time to clean your floor really, really well. I ended up vacuuming, then steam mopping really well, just with a mild cleaning solution. And then after I steam mopped really, really well, I went back with just a scrub rag and cleaning solution. And I got into all the corners and I cleaned all the corners and along the baseboards really well. I saved underneath the fridge and the stove for later. Next, you're going to start by placing your center tiles in the middle of your room. As you can see, I marked out with my Sharpie exactly where my one single starting tile is going to lay. This is the most important one because then all your other tiles spread out from there. So it's really important that you have this first tile perfectly straight on your marked out line. Smooth it down really, really well, and then continue to place your first row of peel and stick tiles. Once you have that first row in place, or at least part of a row, then you can add your second row and continue to work out from there all the way until you reach the edges of your room. One thing I would like to note is it's very important to plan out where you're going to put each tile before you actually peel off the backing. I like to work in groups of 4 or 5. Here's why. Can you see right there how that pattern doesn't line up perfectly? You want to keep rotating the tile until you have the edges of both tiles where the pattern meets up perfectly before you start laying your tile. I like to work in groups of 4 or 5 tiles at a time and kind of get them all planned out. I'll make a little marking, as you can see here, on the back of the paper backing of the tile as well as on the floor, so I remember which tile goes where. It's especially important to do this before you reach the edge of your room up along like your baseboards, because if you're trying to match up a loose tile with a tile that's already in place on the floor, it's really hard to do that when you're butting up against a trim piece or a wall or an appliance because you can't bend the tile to see exactly how it's going to lay. So plan out in groups of 4, 5, 6, however many tiles you want at a time to make sure that everything's going to line up, not just along that one edge along your existing row, but with each tile to the left and right of it as well. This can be kind of maddening. Sometimes you'll get it right on the first or second try. In all honesty, at some points, I had to try 7 or 8 different tiles, rotating them 4 directions until I could get my pattern to line up exactly perfectly. This is a lesson I kind of learned the hard way when I did my bathroom floor. I have quite a few mistakes, and you can see there's a lot of places where the patterns between the tile doesn't line up. I was more methodical this time when I did my kitchen, and in all honesty, I think I spent more time trying to line up the edges between my tiles and getting the pattern to look just right than I did actually laying the floor tiles. As you can see here, it's a pretty quick process. In fact, it was so easy, I had a couple of little extra helpers who liked to help me peel off the backing of my tile and put them in place. Once you get your center tiles in place, it's time to tackle your trim pieces. The way that I like to go about doing this is I'll plan out my tiles, which tiles are going to go where. As you can see, I've got 3 set out here. Then I like to take just a piece of paper, or often just the backing, the paper backing from a different tile that I've already laid down, smooth it down and fold it to make an exact template of what you want your tile to look like.
I made an exact template for every single tile that I cut, and then I just trace that template onto the vinyl tile that I want to cut. I use a Sharpie marker, just trace that line, make sure everything's lined up perfectly, and then use a straight edge and a razor blade. Make sure you have a cutting mat or some sort of protective surface underneath your tile when you cut it. All it takes is a couple firm scores with your razor blade to get the vinyl tile to cut, and then you should be able to just bend it and separate it. Set the tile in place first with the backing on to make sure that you did your cut right, make any adjustments if needed, and then you can just peel away the paper backing and place the tile in place. So I continued to do this all the way around the edge of my kitchen. The final step was working around my appliances, which I was dreading because I thought it was going to be horrible, and it actually really wasn't that bad. I just kind of moved my appliances out of the way, first one direction and then to the other, so I could work in little sections placing the tile. I made sure to clean the floor under my fridge and my stove extremely well. And then just be careful when you're sliding your appliances out that you don't chip or damage or scratch your existing tile. Maybe lay a towel down underneath or a drop cloth to protect the existing tile from the feet of your appliances. But honestly, you guys, that's it. Like I said, I did this, I think it took me less than a day. I did it on a weekend. As you can see, I had the dog in and out. I had kids in and out. This was not a time-intensive project, no special tools required, and I bought all the tile that I needed for my kitchen here for under $150. I'm going to link to all my sources below and all my favorite vinyl peel and stick tile. If you're ready to make a change in your kitchen or your bathroom, and going the full tile and grout experience is not either within your DIY skill set or your budget, I highly recommend these peel and stick vinyl floor tiles for a quick, easy, and inexpensive update. So that's it. Make sure to hit like and subscribe below so you never miss a thrifty DIY home decor project or crafting experience. Until next time, happy making.